Well, 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 seems that the April Fool's joke turned out to not be an April Fool's joke, and we are indeed getting a new Nancy Drew game. Now, there are a lot of mixed feelings going on about this. There were a lot of mixed feelings when the joke that wasn't a joke first came into being, and people were not arguing, just speculating whether or not it was true, whether or not it was a joke, and if it was a joke, that would have been probably one of the worst jokes that Her Interactive could have played on its fan base. That really would have been upsetting. My whole thing was they seem to have gone through a lot of trouble for just a gag, and it turned out that it wasn't a joke and that they were probably employing some kind of a marketing strategy. Now, we believe that the mystery is going to be called Mystery of the Seven Keys. What those keys are, we don't know. There are a couple of speculations going on. One of the clues that Her Interactive released had to do with hacking, which seems to mean that it's keys as in keyboard keys. It could be keys as in physical keys, it could be musical keys, probably not that one. So I certainly don't have the most information nor the most insight on this, but I wanted to talk about it anyway because it's exciting and it's fun. So I think over the past few days my initial reaction was happiness and excitement, but as I've been perusing online profiles and blogs and things, I'm seeing that there is a lot of skepticism because I forget how long ago it was it 2016 that Her Interactive essentially scrapped all of their employees, and then we got Midnight in Salem, which I have not played yet. Not entirely looking forward to it, but we got Midnight in Salem and people were not happy. And so the optimism isn't running particularly high for this upcoming game, and some people are saying this seems like really lazy marketing because even the little ad video we got is a little meh. There's not a lot going on with it, and I understand that. I think I probably would have more solid or pronounced opinions if I had played Midnight in Salem, but for me it's just kind of this vague black box of potential disappointment, but I haven't had that disappointment confirmed yet. I'm hoping that Her Interactive saw some of the feedback and maybe would take some pointers for that, because as I was looking through, I think it was the comments on the Nancy Drew Games Instagram page, the video preview, whatever, that they released after the Clue one. A lot of people were saying, you know, please go back to point and click, please make it like the original vibes, because I'm actually not entirely sure what the Midnight in Salem layout is. I think they did the animation on Unity, and so I think I saw someone compare the characters to looking like cheap Sims 4 characters, which is not the greatest description. And as far as my thoughts and desires for the game goes, I mean, I do want it to go back to the point and click mode. I like that. I think it works. And it's possible that Midnight in Salem, you know, they wanted to update and they wanted to freshen it. But the motive of just making something more current or more trendy can be a very dangerous motive, because sure, you make it current, you make it trendy, and then in a year or in 2 years, it's no longer current and it's no longer trendy. In some ways, I feel that a lot of the original Nancy Drew games were kind of cutting edge, and then when they stopped being cutting edge, they had their niche, they had their method, and it worked. They updated some things and adjusted some of the menus and the, you know, the graphic screens, like how Nancy accesses her inventory and stuff like that, but it stayed largely the same, and I don't think that that method or approach to a game is completely passé. I do think there is still a place for it. Something doesn't have to have the wildest graphics or be the most complex thing on the planet. I just think that it needs to make sense within the context of itself. That's one of my big things with any art whatsoever. If it makes sense in the context of itself, then it's doing an okay job. If you think about Minecraft, which is a cool idea, and it's not quite something that had been done before, but it's a play on something that had been done before, and they decided to go for fairly archaic looking graphics. Nobody cared. They thought that it was cool, and now it's a completely distinctive style. And I think that the Nancy Drew games should lean into that make it look like a Nancy Drew game. To me, a screenshot from a Nancy Drew game with the inventory bar, I personally prefer, or I really like the dark teal border from the older games. Maybe that's just because I've been playing them lately, but I like that look and I think that it makes it very distinctive. It says this is a Nancy Drew game and I think that's great. So I'm hopeful, maybe more hopeful than others, that they will go back to that style. Maybe not for this game though. Right now, based on what I've seen of Midnight in Salem, the Nancy Drew games are en route to being generic. And whatever else you could say about the Nancy Drew games, whether they were ridiculous or they seemed dated, and all of the different things that you can make fun of, still made the Nancy Drew games distinctive and memorable. And right now, it seems that the path is not very distinctive and not very memorable. Now, regarding the specifics of what this game is going to entail, there are a lot of other people out there who have their theories and are doing their deep digging. I mostly follow, I think it's pronounced Kalina Herman. If you're among the Nancy Drew people, I'm sure that you've heard of her. So she has her website and she's sort of been collecting all of the information about the upcoming game. And so she had a video where she sort of dissected the clues, which included the newsletter and the little video that they released after they wiped their Instagram and all of that joyous stuff that went on, and all the little clues and Easter eggs that were being dropped in the newsletter and stuff like that. I think Nancy Drew Collector on Instagram said that her interactive is in its Midnights or Taylor Swift era with the way that they're handling all of their Easter eggs and such. I agreed with them. So regarding game content, your guess is as good as mine, probably even better. But let's look at what keys can be. A key can be, as we know, the classic key that we insert into a lock and then it's no longer locked and we open the thing. You may have heard of those keys. Other suggestions based purely on the definition of the word key, something that is short for a key card. An instrument for grasping and turning a screw, peg, or nut, especially one for winding a clock or turning a valve. We haven't seen anything implying a clock, so we're probably not going to go with that one. And then, of course, each of the several buttons that's on a computer, as we know, computer keys. But what is interesting, if we look at the released graphics that I'm looking at, Kalina Herman's website, so this is like from the newsletter and stuff, the graphics that they've released that could be clues to the upcoming game don't really fit the computer aspect. You've got this checkered floor that looks marbly and quite old. We have another stone looking floor that looks a little bit more modern. We have a lot of things that have to do with tiles. Those graphics seem to be quite different from the computer hacking vibe that we've gotten in a more literal sense. So, other types of keys. Here's some less likely options. The dry winged fruit of an ash, maple, or sycamore maple, typically grown in bunches. A samara. Didn't know that was a thing, so maybe it has to do with trees. Trees and keys, but we haven't seen anything to indicate that. This is a good one. The part of a first coat of wall plaster that passes between the laths and so secures the rest. I actually know kind of what that means. I can visualize that. That would be interesting. A Nancy Drew game about plastering. It would be funny, like maybe they'll incorporate multiple of these definitions, you know, musical keys, keys for opening something, plastering, trees. They should incorporate all of them. So another thing, and I can't remember where, but in one of their posts or their information distributions, whatever, they released something where the letters spelled out the word salut, S-A-L-U-T, which I know it as being like a casual French word, basically like hi. But I also know that it can be like what you say before you drink something, salut, and then you take a drink. But I still think it's French in both cases. So that says salut, but I haven't seen much that's made the educated guess that this game is going to be taking place in France or a primarily French-speaking country. I've seen Austria. I've seen Prague, which is the Czech Republic, which that would be new. So would Austria. So the main reason for thinking that Austria could be the location is, I guess, at the end of Midnight in Salem, Nancy and Ned are having some kind of conversation and it involves going to Austria. And so to me, that makes complete sense that that would be a preview, Easter egg, hint drop for the upcoming game. However, if we're taking the salut thing into account, I don't think that they really speak much French in Austria. I mean, probably some, but German is the official language of Austria. And then it says Croatian, Slovenian, and Hungarian are recognized as official languages of autonomous population groups in some regions. I'm not seeing French. Quick note that would sort of tie in Austria and French thing is that following World War II, Vienna and Austria were separated into 4 factions by United States, Britain, Soviet Union, and France. So if there's some sort of tie-in with French being spoken and Austria, then there could be a historical tie-in to this period that lasted for about 10 years after World War II. Does it mean something in German? Scheitzen, to fire a salute. It has to do with a salute. To fire a salute, a 21-gun salute. Alright, I don't think I have anything groundbreaking to say about that, but as I'm scrolling through Kalina's website, she points out, and I was wondering about this and thought that it was true, the Nancy stationery used in the clue letter, the sort of teaser thing. The Nancy stationery is her old stationery from Game 32 and before. Game 33 used a very plain white piece of paper and different font for Nancy's handwriting. This image also shows Nancy's old stationery in front of her iconic bedroom desk, which was also from Game 32 and before. So this is this type of stuff that is implying that maybe we're getting back to our roots, but who knows. Game 33 used a different desk scene entirely and only in a cutscene. So that's sort of a positive spin. Maybe it will be a mesh of Midnight in Salem and previous games, which is fine. Like, to me, you can take classic elements from anything, from a game, and simply incorporate it in an updated way. Thinking about the Zelda franchise, which has been successful for years, and it still retains a lot of even just design elements that a lot of the fans recognize, but it still continues to update and it does feel fresh. There's a way to do that. You don't have to just completely discard everything from the past. And why would you do that? Why would you get rid of the beloved aspects? I think what I've kind of landed on thus far is I don't care exactly where the game takes place. I do care about her interactive redemption arc. I don't think it's impossible. I think there is a market for the Nancy Drew games as we know and love them. Yes, I think they need to be spruced up. Yes, I think that adjustments need to be made, but there's still a place for them, and there's still a place for the things about the Nancy Drew games that actually brought in many devoted fans. It's amazing how people have stuck with these games. Maybe it's not a huge amount, and it's not, but devotion is high in the Nancy Drew community. So I think where I'm landing is this game is going to determine whether or not we are on the right track. I don't think it's going to be a complete 180 from Midnight in Salem. Even though I haven't played Midnight in Salem, I don't think it's going to be a complete 180. I don't think it's going to be a complete recovery. I'm hoping for an okay game and a game that is pointing us in the right direction. The elements are there though. The grand Nancy Drew revival, it's there. The right people have just got to find it and put it into existence. I don't know when that's going to happen or how that's going to happen, but I think that it could. And so I am optimistic for something to be okay. Okay, and now Her Interactive has just dropped this clue with all of the books. Is that a bobby pin? Oh my goodness. And we've got a magnifying glass focusing on the black keys. We've got an assortment of books to look at. Oh, this seems so much more on the right track. This is lovely. Okay, I'm very excited. But I'm going to try not to get my hopes up too much. So, these are my thoughts. I will see you some other time, and I hope that you have a good sleuthy day. That was a bad choice. Anyway, so long.